Okay, so I wanted to take a little bit of time and show you guys again how to calculate diabetic exchanges. So we're going to have these target rates right here: 1,800 calories. 55% of the calories coming from carbohydrate, 20% of the calories coming from protein, and 25% of the calories coming from fat. So the first thing that we have to do is determine our macronutrient targets. So we're going to basically take 1,800 calories and we're going to divide that, or multiply it rather, by 55% to figure out how many grams of carbs we're ultimately going to need. So I'm going to take 1,800, and if I multiply that by 0.55, 55%, I end up getting 990 calories. Now that's 990 calories coming from carbohydrate. To convert that to grams, I need to divide it by 4, and that tells me I have a total target of 247.5 grams from carbohydrate. And we're just going to go ahead and say, well, we're going to forget the 247. We're going to make it 248 just by simple rounding. Okay? All right, now we have 20% of our calories coming from protein. So again, 1,800 times 20% gives me 360. I'm going to do the same thing, divide that by 4 calories per gram, and that's going to leave me with 90 total grams of protein for my target. Okay? Same thing with fat here. We're going to take 1,800 calories times 25% fat. That's going to give me 450 calories coming from fat. If I divide that by 9 calories per gram, I'm going to end up with 50 grams of fat. So this is my target amount right here. Okay? So the next thing to do is, knowing how many milks, fruits, and vegetables have been given, we're going to determine carbohydrate, protein, and fat that's given from that. So I'm going to start a new page, and we are going to say we're given that the resident or patient is going to take 2 milk exchanges. Oops, let's get the right tool up here. 2 milk, and we're going to use skim milk, and we're going to consider skim milk having 1 gram of fat per exchange. They're also going to take in 2 fruits. We've negotiated them to be able to get in 2 fruits a day, and then 4 vegetables. Okay? So we are going to use the knowledge we have of the exchange system to determine how many grams of each of these, carbohydrate, protein, and fat, is provided by each of these exchanges, first of all. So let me just do this real quick. And we're going to start with 2 milk. 2 milk, 12 grams of carbohydrate per exchange. That's 24 grams of carbohydrate. 8 grams of protein per exchange, so that's 16. And I said we're going to consider it to be 1 gram of fat, so that's going to give me 2 grams of fat per the 2 exchanges. Okay. We have 2 fruits, that's 15 grams carbohydrate per exchange, so I have 30 grams of carbohydrate, and I don't get any protein and I don't get any fat from fruits. Vegetables, I have 5 grams of carbs per exchange, so that gives me 20 grams, and I have 2 grams of protein per exchange, so I have 8 grams of protein, and again it's basically fat-free, so I have no fat at all. Now what we have to put in here that we're still missing is how many starch, how many meat, and we're going to consider lean meat, and then how many fat exchanges. to finish things out. Okay? Well, we'll start with the starch exchanges. And right off the bat, I know that I've already got 24 grams of carbohydrate and 30 grams of carbohydrate and 20 grams of carbohydrate already accounted for. My target, if you remember, I'm going to switch back over to my target rate, and that was 248 grams. So if I take my 248 that I know I have, and if I add these guys up together, I get 74 grams of carbohydrate from these, from the milk, the fruit, and the vegetable. So I'm going to come over to a new page again, and we're going to have, for our starch exchange, I'm going to have 248 grams that are my target. I've already counted for 74 grams, right? So when I subtract this, I have 174 grams left. Now, I know in each starch exchange there's 15 grams per exchange. So that's going to tell me I have about 11.6 grams. I'm sorry, 11.6 exchanges to use. So, again, I'm not going to work with that. I'm going to go ahead and say this is going to be 12 exchanges that I'll work with. I'm just going to round it up. And you could round it down. Either would be fine as you're doing this in real life, but it will have a big bearing on your future, on what you're going to end up with for meats and fats as you work this problem through. So we're going to say we're going to go ahead and start with 12 exchanges to start. So I'm going to come back over here. So our starch, we're going to put in 12. Okay? So for 12 starch exchanges, I'm going to end up adding an additional 3 grams per exchange. That's 36 grams of protein for those 12 starch exchanges. And then each starch exchange also has about 1 gram of fat. So that's an additional 12 grams of fat. Okay? And 12 times our 15, I believe, is going to give you 180 grams of starch, just to round that out. So by the time we add all this starch up, we get about, I think, 254 grams, which is pretty darn close to our target. Again, the difference is just in the rounding that we made. Okay, so now we need to work with our meat exchanges. So in our meat exchanges, now we've already got accounted for protein, 16 grams from the milk, 8 grams from the vegetables, and 36 grams coming from those 12 starch exchanges that we just added. So when I take the those three and add them together, I end up with 60 grams of protein. And then just to go back as a reminder, our target was 90, right? So if I take meats, our target was 90. Okay, we accounted for 60. That's going to leave me with 30 grams to work with. And I know that there's 7 grams per exchange. 7 grams of protein in each meat exchange. Okay? So if I take my 30 and divide it by 7, I get 4.3. And again, we're going to round this and we're going to work with 4. Okay? So I'm going to come back to here. We're going to say we're going to have 4 meat exchanges. No carbs in the meat. Okay? We have 7 per meat exchange of protein, 7 grams per protein per meat exchange. So that's going to give me 28. And we're using lean meats, which is 3 grams of fat per exchange. So I've got 4 exchanges, that's a total of 12 for fat, right? Okay. So now we need to determine our fat exchanges. And again, we have 12, 12, and 2. That is 24, 26 grams of fat. And as a reminder, our target for fat was 50 grams. So if we come back over, create a new page here just to do our fats. Alright, so our target was 50 grams of fat. We counted for 26 grams. Okay? So that's going to leave us with 24 grams. 5 grams of fat per exchange. That's going to end up with 4.9. And again, we're going to round that to 5. So let's come back. 5 exchanges of fat, no carbs, no protein. 5 exchanges, that's going to be 25 grams of fat in those exchanges. So let's go ahead and total everything up real quick. Okay. So if I take my 24, 30, all my carbs, add them all up together here, I'm going to end up with 254 grams of carbohydrate. Do the same thing with my protein, add all those up, and I get 88 grams of protein. And do the same thing with my fat exchanges, and I add all those guys up together, and I end up with 51 grams of fat. So if you look at that and compare it with what our targets were, we're pretty darn close. Okay? And that's how you do diabetic exchanges. You can round beforehand or you can round afterwards. And your answers will vary, but usually they're not going to vary by more than about half an exchange or so. So, thanks for watching this.